A kingdom of glass and loneliness. Nathan Westfield gazed through the panoramic windows of his Chicago penthouse, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars 42 floors below. At 36 years old, he commanded a pharmaceutical empire worth billions, lived in a space that resembled a museum more than a home, and possessed everything society deemed valuable. His company, Westfield Pharmaceuticals, had revolutionized treatments for rare diseases and earned him recognition in Forbes, Time magazine, and countless business journals. Yet as he stood there in his perfectly pressed designer shirt, loosening his tie after another 16-hour workday, Nathan felt a profound emptiness that no amount of success could fill. The penthouse sprawled across 6,000 square feet of pristine white marble, floor-to-ceiling windows, and furniture that cost more than most cars. Everything had been selected by an interior designer he had met exactly once. The space was beautiful in a cold, untouchable way. There were no photographs on the walls, no personal mementos cluttering the surfaces, nothing that revealed a human being actually lived there. Nathan had designed his life this way intentionally. After watching his father destroy their family through reckless emotional decisions and his mother retreat into depression, he had vowed to build an existence based purely on logic and control. Emotions were the enemy. Vulnerability led to pain. Success required sacrifice, and he had sacrificed everything, including himself. The girl who lived in the margins. Cassandra Monroe, who preferred to be called Cassie, moved through the penthouse like a shadow, performing her duties with quiet efficiency. She had arrived in Chicago 8 months ago from a small town in Tennessee where opportunities were as scarce as the winter sun. At 23, she carried the weight of responsibilities that would have crushed most people her age. Her father had been injured in a factory accident 2 years earlier, leaving him unable to work. Her younger brother Tommy was brilliant but needed financial support to attend college. Her mother held 3 part-time jobs but still struggled to keep their family afloat. When the domestic placement agency offered Cassie a position as a live-in housekeeper for a wealthy executive, promising a salary that seemed almost impossible, she had accepted immediately. The coordinator had warned her that Nathan Westfield was demanding, rarely home, and preferred staff to be invisible. Cassie did not mind. Invisibility had been her survival strategy her entire life. Growing up poor in a town where everyone knew your business meant learning to keep your head down and your dreams hidden. Her room in the penthouse was small but comfortable, tucked away near the service kitchen where Nathan never ventured. She woke each morning at 5 to ensure everything was perfect before he emerged from his bedroom. She cleaned rooms he rarely entered, prepared elaborate meals he often forgot to eat, and maintained the sterile perfection he seemed to require. In 8 months, they had exchanged fewer than 30 words, mostly his brief instructions delivered without eye contact. Cassie preferred it that way. The less he noticed her, the safer her position felt. The moment that shattered everything. That particular evening had been exhausting. Nathan had hosted a business dinner for potential investors, and Cassie had spent hours cleaning up afterwards. By the time she finished, past midnight, every muscle in her body ached. She retreated to her small room, grateful for a moment of privacy. The door had no lock, something she had noticed on her first day but never mentioned. Who would enter the staff quarters anyway? She peeled off her black uniform dress, damp from hours of work in the warm kitchen. Standing in her simple cotton undergarments, she reached into her narrow closet for a nightshirt when she heard the door handle turn. Her heart stopped. Time fractured into impossible slowness as the door swung open and Nathan Westfield stood frozen in the doorway, his expression shifting from confusion to absolute horror. Their eyes met. Cassie's hands flew to cover herself, clutching the nightshirt against her chest. Heat flooded her face, not just embarrassment but a deep, nauseating shame that felt like drowning. She could not breathe, could not think, could not understand how this nightmare was happening. Nathan stood motionless, his face pale, his mouth slightly open as if someone had struck him. "I am so sorry," Cassie whispered, her voice cracking. The apology made no logical sense. She had done nothing wrong, yet instinct drove her to apologize, to somehow make this terrible moment her fault rather than his. Nathan seemed to wake from a trance. His eyes widened with genuine horror, not at her, but at himself. "No, I am sorry," he stammered, backing away quickly. "I saw the light on and thought there might be an electrical problem. I did not know you were here. I am so sorry." He pulled the door shut quickly, leaving Cassie alone in sudden, terrible silence. The weight of power and fear. She sank onto her narrow bed, trembling violently. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. This job was everything. If he fired her, if he complained to the agency, if word spread that she had somehow been inappropriate, she would never work in this city again. Her family needed the money she sent home each month. Her brother needed support for college. Her father needed medical care. She could not lose this position. Outside in the hallway, Nathan leaned against the wall, his hand still on the door handle, his pulse hammering in his ears. The image of Cassie's face, terrified and vulnerable, burned itself into his memory. He had seen pure fear, and the sickening realization hit him that he had caused it. Not through intention but through thoughtlessness. In his world, intention did not matter. Power mattered, and he held all of it. He walked slowly back to his bedroom, sat on the edge of his expensive bed, and put his head in his hands. It was an accident, a simple mistake. He had genuinely thought there might be an electrical issue when he saw the light on so late. But explanations felt hollow against the memory of her trembling hands and whispered apology. She had apologized to him for his intrusion into her private space. The wrongness of that moment cut through his carefully constructed emotional walls like a blade. The dawn of something new. Neither slept that night. Cassie lay in the darkness, replaying the moment endlessly, trying to prepare herself for whatever consequences would come. She thought about her father's medical bills, her brother's dreams of engineering school, her mother's exhausted face during their last video call. She thought about the teaching degree she had abandoned after 2 years when her family needed her income more than she needed her dreams. Nathan sat by his bedroom window, watching the city transition from night to dawn, feeling something he had not experienced in years. Guilt, yes, but also a strange awakening. In that brief, terrible moment, he had seen Cassie as a real person, not just efficient staff. He had seen her fear and vulnerability, and it had cracked something open inside him that he had kept sealed for decades. When dawn finally broke, painting the Chicago skyline in shades of gold and rose, both Nathan and Cassie rose to face a day that felt fundamentally different. Neither understood yet that the accidental collision of their separate worlds had set something profound into motion. The carefully constructed walls around their hearts had begun to crack, and through those cracks, something unexpected and transformative was about to grow. The morning after. Sunlight flooded the penthouse kitchen where Cassie stood preparing Nathan's usual breakfast, her hands moving through familiar motions while her mind raced with anxiety. She had dressed with extra care that morning, ensuring her uniform was perfectly pressed, her dark hair pulled back in a flawless bun, her composure as controlled as she could manage. Every sound made her jump. Every footstep in the hallway sent her heart racing. She had rehearsed what she would say if he fired her, practiced keeping her voice steady, her dignity intact. Nathan appeared in the doorway, looking equally uncertain. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, evidence of his own sleepless night. He had changed clothes 3 times that morning, a detail that would have embarrassed him if anyone knew. For a man who commanded boardrooms and negotiated billion-dollar deals without hesitation, he felt strangely paralyzed by the simple act of talking to his housekeeper. "Good morning, Mr. Westfield," Cassie said softly, her voice remarkably steady despite the trembling in her hands. She kept her eyes focused on the coffee maker, unable to meet his gaze. "Cassie," Nathan began, then stopped. His carefully planned speech evaporated. "About last night. I need you to know it was completely my fault. I should have knocked. I should have called out. I violated your privacy, and I am deeply sorry." She turned slightly, surprise flickering across her delicate features before she quickly masked it. In 8 months of working for him, she had never heard him apologize to anyone, much less to her. Men like Nathan Westfield did not apologize to people like her. They gave orders, expected perfection, and moved through the world as if service staff were merely extensions of the furniture. "Thank you, Mr. Westfield," she whispered, unsure what else to say. "It was an accident. We can forget it happened." "No," Nathan said firmly, stepping closer but maintaining a respectful distance. "We cannot forget it happened because it matters. You deserve to feel safe here. If you want to request a transfer to another household, I will make sure the agency provides excellent references and I will personally ensure you receive a generous severance package." The offer caught her off guard. "Do you want me to leave?" The question escaped before she could stop it, her voice smaller than she intended. "Absolutely not," Nathan replied immediately. "But your comfort matters more than my convenience. That is something I should have made clear from the beginning." Seeds of understanding. Over the following days, something fundamental shifted in the penthouse. Nathan found himself coming home earlier, drawn by something he could not quite name. He began noticing details he had previously ignored. Cassie arrived before dawn each morning and often worked past midnight. She carefully saved leftover food from his meals, packing it neatly to take back to her room. Her shoes had been resoled multiple times, the leather worn smooth from constant use. One evening, he found her during her break, sitting at the small table in the service kitchen, writing in a weathered notebook. She quickly closed it when she heard his approach, but not before he glimpsed neat handwriting covering the pages. "What are you writing?" Nathan asked gently, genuinely curious rather than intrusive. Cassie hesitated, weighing whether honesty was safe. Finally, she answered. "Letters to my family. My father was injured at work 2 years ago. He cannot read well anymore because of his medications, so my mother reads my letters to him. It helps him feel connected." "You must miss them terribly," Nathan observed, seeing the softness in her eyes when she spoke of home. "Every single day," Cassie admitted. "But I am here so I can help them. The money I send home pays for my father's physical therapy and helps my younger brother stay in community college. He wants to be an engineer. He is so smart, Mr. Westfield. He could really make something of himself if he gets the chance." Nathan felt something twist in his chest. While he lived in luxury he barely noticed, Cassie worked herself to exhaustion to give her family opportunities she had sacrificed for herself. The contrast between their worlds had never felt more stark or more wrong. Unveiling dreams and regrets. "What did you do before you came to Chicago?" Nathan asked, settling into a chair across from her, genuinely wanting to know. "I was studying to become a teacher," Cassie said, and for the first time since he had known her, genuine light entered her expression. "Elementary education. I completed 2 years at the state university on a scholarship, but when my father got hurt, I had to stop. Someone needed to work, and my mother was already doing everything she could." "You wanted to be a teacher?" Nathan found himself deeply affected by this revelation. "Do you still want that?" "More than anything," Cassie replied quietly. "I used to volunteer at the after-school program in my town. Those kids, especially the ones from difficult homes, they just needed someone to believe in them. I wanted to be that person. Someday, when I save enough money, I will finish my degree. That is the plan, anyway." Nathan studied her face, seeing determination beneath the exhaustion. Here was someone with genuine purpose, dreams that extended beyond accumulating wealth or status. When was the last time he had wanted something that did not involve market dominance or quarterly profits? When had he last cared about anything beyond the next acquisition or merger? "That is a beautiful goal," he said sincerely. "The world needs more teachers who actually care about their students." Cassie smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her tired features into something radiant. "Thank you, Mr. Westfield." "Please," he said. "When we are alone like this, call me Nathan." She looked uncertain, aware of the boundaries being crossed, but nodded slowly. Nathan. Sharing hidden pain. As weeks passed, their conversations grew longer and more frequent. Nathan found himself lingering in the kitchen while Cassie prepared dinner, asking about her day, her family, her memories of Tennessee. She answered cautiously at first, then with increasing openness as she realized his interest was genuine, not some elaborate test or trap. She learned that he loved classical music but never attended concerts because he always worked late. She learned that despite his wealth, he had not taken a vacation in 7 years. She learned that he wrote poetry late at night when he could not sleep, verses about emptiness and searching that he would never show anyone. In turn, Nathan began sharing pieces of his carefully guarded past. One evening, as rain streaked down the massive windows and the city glowed beneath them, he told her about his childhood. His father had been a successful businessman who made reckless decisions based on impulse and emotion, eventually losing everything to bad investments and worse partnerships. His mother had descended into depression, unable to cope with the fall from wealth to poverty. They had divorced bitterly when Nathan was 13, each blaming the other for their failures. "My mother died 5 years after the divorce," Nathan said quietly, staring into his wine glass. "She was living in a small apartment on the south side, working retail just to survive. I was so consumed with building my company, proving I could succeed where my father failed, that I barely visited her. I told myself I was too busy, that I would make it up to her once I became successful enough to really help her. But she died before I got the chance. Heart failure, alone in that apartment. The neighbors found her 3 days later." Cassie reached across the table and gently touched his hand, a gesture of comfort that surprised them both. "I am so sorry, Nathan. That must be incredibly painful to carry." "I thought success would make me happy," Nathan admitted, not pulling away from her touch. "I thought if I became powerful enough, wealthy enough, would never be vulnerable again. I would never be like my father, destroyed by poor decisions and uncontrolled emotions. But all I did was build a prison. I removed everything that made life worth living just to avoid the risk of pain. Small acts, big changes. It is not too late," Cassie said gently. "You can still choose differently. You can still let people in." "Can I?" Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw compassion instead of judgment. "I have spent 20 years becoming this person. I do not even know if I remember how to be anyone else." "Start small," Cassie suggested. "Small choices, small acts of kindness. That is how real change happens. Not through grand gestures but through daily decisions to be a little bit better, a little bit more open." Her words stayed with him long after she had retired to her room. That night, Nathan sat at his computer and researched Cassie's family situation. Through careful inquiries disguised as routine background checks, he learned about her father's medical needs, her brother's academic achievements, and the mounting debt her family carried despite everyone's best efforts. He made his first small choice. Through his company's charitable foundation, he anonymously funded a scholarship for her brother, Tommy, covering his full tuition and living expenses for the remaining 3 years of his engineering degree. He arranged for her father to receive treatment at a specialized rehabilitation clinic that his pharmaceutical company partnered with, all costs covered through a medical research program that technically existed but rarely accepted participants. He structured everything carefully so it could never be traced back to him personally. Nathan did not tell Cassie about any of this. The gestures were not about recognition or gratitude. They were about doing something right simply because it was right, about using his resources to actually help someone rather than just accumulating more wealth for its own sake. A phone call that changed everything. 2 weeks later, Cassie received a phone call that left her sobbing with relief in her small room. Her mother explained that Tommy had been awarded a full scholarship from some foundation she had never heard of. Her father had been accepted into a rehabilitation program that could actually help him regain mobility. The financial pressure that had crushed their family for 2 years was suddenly, miraculously lifting. That evening, when Nathan came home from work, he found Cassie in the kitchen with tears still on her cheeks but a smile brighter than any he had seen before. "Nathan," she said, forgetting formality in her excitement. "The most amazing thing happened. My brother got a scholarship. My father got into this incredible treatment program. After 2 years of struggling, things are finally looking up for my family. I cannot believe it." "That is wonderful news," Nathan said, carefully keeping his expression neutral. "They deserve good fortune after everything they have been through." Cassie looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. She was not a fool. The timing, the nature of the help, the way Nathan would not quite meet her gaze. She knew. Somehow, she knew. "Did you do this?" she asked softly. Nathan considered lying, but found he could not. "Not to her. Not anymore. Does it matter who did it? Your family needed help. Now they have it. That is what matters." Tears filled Cassie's eyes again, but these were different. "Why would you do something so incredible for people you have never met?" "Because someone I have come to care about loves them," Nathan said simply. "And because I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes while good people struggle. Using it to actually help someone feels better than anything I have done with it before." Cassie crossed the space between them and hugged him, a spontaneous gesture that broke every professional boundary. Nathan froze for a moment, then slowly wrapped his arms around her, feeling something crack open in his chest. For the first time in decades, he felt truly connected to another human being. The walls he had built so carefully were crumbling, and instead of fear, he felt relief. When Cassie finally pulled back, wiping her eyes, she smiled at him with such genuine warmth that Nathan felt his carefully controlled world shift on its axis. Something profound was happening between them, something that transcended employer and employee, rich and poor, different worlds colliding. Neither spoke it aloud yet, but both felt it. The foundation of something deeper, something real, was being built through honest conversations, shared vulnerabilities, and small acts of kindness that revealed the true character hidden beneath their protective shells, when friendship becomes something more. Spring arrived in Chicago with unexpected warmth, transforming the city into a landscape of blooming trees and longer days. Inside the penthouse, an even more profound transformation was taking place. Nathan found himself thinking about Cassie at odd moments during business meetings, wondering what she was doing, whether she had eaten lunch, if she was happy. He caught himself buying her favorite coffee blend during a grocery run, something he had never done personally before, always having everything delivered. One Saturday morning, Nathan made a decision that surprised even himself. He knocked on Cassie's door, something he now always did without fail, and asked if she had any plans for the day. When she admitted she never had plans because she never took days off, he insisted she take the entire weekend free, with full pay. More than that, he wanted to show her something she had mentioned weeks ago during one of their evening conversations. "You said you had never seen Lake Michigan up close," Nathan said. "That seems wrong for someone who has lived here 8 months. Would you let me take you there today? Not as your employer, just as someone who would like to spend time with you." Cassie hesitated, aware that they were crossing another invisible line. But the hope in Nathan's eyes, the vulnerability of someone trying so hard to connect, made her decision easy. "I would like that very much." A day of discovery. They spent the afternoon walking along the lakefront, talking about everything and nothing. Nathan had never done anything like this, simply walking with no destination or purpose beyond enjoying another person's company. Cassie had never felt so free, unburdened by responsibilities or expectations. They ate hot dogs from a street vendor, something that made Cassie laugh because Nathan admitted he had never eaten street food before. "How is that possible?" she asked, watching him carefully examine the hot dog as if it might contain secrets to the universe. "I have spent 20 years eating at expensive restaurants or having gourmet meals prepared," Nathan replied. "I forgot that food could be simple and still enjoyable." "That is sad," Cassie said gently. "You have been missing out on so much while chasing success." Nathan took a bite, then smiled genuinely. "You are right. This is actually really good. Though I suspect the company makes it taste better." Cassie felt her heart flutter, a sensation she had been trying to ignore for weeks. This man, with all his wealth and power, looked happier eating a $5 hot dog with her than she had ever seen him in his expensive penthouse. Something shifted inside her, a recognition she had been fighting because it felt impossible and dangerous. She was falling in love with Nathan Westfield. The realization. That evening, as they watched the sunset paint the lake in shades of orange and purple, Nathan turned to Cassie with an expression of wonder and fear. "I need to tell you something, and I am terrified of how you might respond." Cassie's breath caught. She knew what was coming, had felt it building between them for weeks, but hearing it aloud would make it real and complicated. "These past months, getting to know you, have changed something fundamental in me," Nathan continued. "You have shown me what I have been missing by keeping everyone at a distance. Your kindness, your strength, your genuine care for others, it has awakened something I thought I had killed years ago. Cassie, I have feelings for you that go far beyond friendship or gratitude. I am falling in love with you, and I needed you to know, even if it ruins everything." Cassie closed her eyes, tears threatening to spill. "Nathan, I feel the same way. I have been trying not to because it seems impossible. You are you, and I am just someone who cleans your home. Our worlds are so different." "Our circumstances are different," Nathan corrected, taking her hand gently. "But our worlds are becoming the same because we are choosing to let each other in. I do not care about circumstances or what anyone else thinks. I care about you, about who you are, about building something real with someone who actually sees me." "I see you," Cassie whispered. "I see the good man you are trying to become, the person who hides behind success because he is afraid of being hurt. I see your loneliness and your hope. And yes, I am falling in love with you too. But Nathan, this will not be easy. People will judge us. They will say terrible things." "Let them," Nathan said firmly. "I have spent my entire life caring what people think, building an image of success while feeling empty inside. I am done with that. If loving you means facing judgment, I will face it gladly." When two worlds collide. The first test came sooner than either expected. Nathan had a business dinner scheduled with potential investors, important people whose support could make or break a major expansion project. Traditionally, he attended such events alone, but this time he asked Cassie to accompany him as his guest, not as staff but as the woman he cared about. Cassie wore a simple dress Nathan had bought her, nothing extravagant but elegant and beautiful. She felt out of place the moment they entered the upscale restaurant where Chicago's elite gathered. The stares began immediately. Nathan Westfield, the eligible bachelor CEO, arriving with an unknown woman who clearly was not from their social circle. Throughout dinner, Nathan's business associates were polite to Cassie's face, but she caught their exchanged glances, heard their whispered speculations. One woman, the wife of a major investor, asked Cassie directly what she did for a living. The question was designed to expose her, to create embarrassment. "I am currently working as a household manager," Cassie answered honestly, refusing to be ashamed. "But I am also planning to return to school to finish my teaching degree." "How interesting," the woman replied with false sweetness. "And how did you and Nathan meet?" "She works for me," Nathan interjected firmly. "Or rather, she did. Cassie has become far more than an employee. She has become the most important person in my life, and I am grateful every day that circumstances brought us together." The table fell silent. Nathan had just publicly acknowledged a relationship with his housekeeper, something that would be gossip fodder across Chicago's social circles by morning. He reached across the table and took Cassie's hand, making his feelings unmistakably clear. "If anyone has a problem with that," Nathan continued, his voice calm but steel underneath, "they are welcome to leave. I will not apologize for caring about someone genuine and kind just because it does not fit social expectations." The crisis that changed everything. Later that week, Nathan's head of public relations stormed into his office with tabloid magazines featuring photographs of him and Cassie together. The headlines were cruel, suggesting Cassie was a gold digger, that Nathan was having a midlife crisis, that their relationship was inappropriate and scandalous. "This is a disaster," his PR director declared. "The board is concerned about your judgment. Investors are questioning your focus. You need to end this relationship immediately or at least hide it until the merger is complete." Nathan felt old anger rising, the familiar instinct to protect his image, to prioritize business over personal feelings. This was what he had always done, sacrificing anything personal for professional success. For one terrible moment, he almost agreed. Then he thought about Cassie, about the genuine happiness he felt with her, about the person he was becoming because of her influence. He thought about his mother dying alone while he chased success that meant nothing without human connection. He thought about all the years he had wasted building an empire while losing himself. "No," Nathan said firmly. "I will not hide my relationship with Cassie, and I certainly will not end it to appease people who value image over substance. If the board has concerns, they can voice them directly to me. If investors are uncomfortable, they can invest elsewhere. I am done sacrificing what matters for what looks good." His PR director stared at him in shock. "You could lose everything you have built." "I have already lost everything that matters once," Nathan replied. "I will not make that mistake again. Cassie stays in my life, publicly and proudly. Make that clear in whatever statement you release." Love's true test. When Nathan told Cassie about the confrontation, she was sitting in what had become their spot, the kitchen table where they had shared so many conversations. Tears filled her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. "You would risk your business for me?" she asked softly. "I would risk everything for you," Nathan replied without hesitation. "Because you have taught me what actually matters. Success means nothing if you are alone. Wealth means nothing if you cannot share it with someone you love. I spent 20 years building an empire while forgetting to build a life. You reminded me how to live, Cassie. You are worth more than any business deal or social approval." Cassie stood and crossed to where Nathan sat, cupping his face in her hands. "I love you. Not because of your money or your status. I love you because you are brave enough to change, honest enough to be vulnerable, and kind enough to care about people beyond yourself. You have become the man I always hoped existed but thought I would never find." Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "Marry me," he whispered against her hair. "I know it is fast. I know people will say terrible things. But I have wasted enough of my life being careful and controlled. I want to spend whatever time I have left being honest and happy. Marry me, Cassie. Build a real life with me." "Yes," Cassie said without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you." A new beginning. 6 months later, Nathan and Cassie were married in a small ceremony attended by her family, a few of Nathan's employees who had become genuine friends, and no one from Chicago's social elite. Nathan had restructured his company, promoting capable executives to handle daily operations while he stepped back into a chairman role that required less of his time and energy. Cassie enrolled in an accelerated teaching program at a local university, using the time Nathan's support afforded her to finally pursue her dream. They sold the cold penthouse and bought a smaller home in a neighborhood with families and community, a place that felt warm and lived in. Nathan discovered that his pharmaceutical company could do far more good when he focused on access rather than just profit. He established programs providing free medications to low-income families, funded medical research for rare diseases that major companies ignored, and created scholarships for students from backgrounds like Cassie's. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their new home watching neighbors walk by with their children, Cassie rested her head on Nathan's shoulder. "Do you ever regret it? Giving up that life for this one?" Nathan thought about the question seriously. He had less money now, having donated enormous amounts to charitable causes. He had less prestige, having walked away from the social circles that once defined success. He worked fewer hours and attended fewer important meetings. "Not for a single moment," he answered honestly. "I had everything before and felt nothing. Now I have what matters, and I feel everything. You saved me, Cassie. You showed me that the life I thought I wanted was just a beautiful prison, and you gave me the courage to walk away from it." "We saved each other," Cassie corrected. "I was working myself to exhaustion for a future that never seemed to arrive. You showed me that dreams are meant to be lived, not just delayed. We both needed someone to remind us what actually matters." The legacy of an accidental moment. Years later, people who knew their story would ask how it started, how a billionaire CEO and his housekeeper fell in love. Nathan and Cassie would exchange knowing glances before answering. "It started with an accident," they would say, "a moment of unexpected vulnerability that cracked open two carefully guarded hearts." But really, it started with a choice. Nathan chose to see Cassie as a person rather than just staff. Cassie chose to see Nathan as a man rather than just wealth. They both chose vulnerability over protection, honesty over image, love over fear. The accidental encounter that brought them together was just the beginning. What followed was a daily choice to keep showing up, to keep being honest, to keep loving each other despite obstacles and judgment. Their love story was not about a fairy tale rescue or a dramatic transformation. It was about two broken people choosing to heal together, to build something real from the ruins of their separate loneliness. And in choosing each other, they discovered something more valuable than all the success and security they had once pursued. They found home, not in a place but in another person who saw them completely and loved them anyway. That accidental moment in a doorway had changed everything, not because of what Nathan saw, but because of what both of them finally allowed themselves to feel. In the end, love did not conquer all their problems or make life perfect. But it gave them something to build on, a foundation of genuine connection in a world that often valued everything except what truly mattered. And that was more than enough. That was everything. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.